وتخلوا لكم فورم لتسجيل الحضور حبيبي يا طيب.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم دكاترة الأعزاء. طبعا اليوم المحاضرة مالتنا حتكون ويب ديزاين اللي هي ال HTML وال CSS. طبعا كسب تايتل الموضوع هذا هو موضوع جدا واسع، يعني ما اقدر اغطيه بمحاضره واحده لانه هو لازم يعني دوره كامله تصير بيها. بس اليوم انا ان شاء الله راح اركز لكم على الانترودكشن للفرونت اند ويب سايت ديفلوبمنت. المحاضره مالتنا راح تتكون من اول شيء شنو هو الويب ديفلوبمنت، بعدين راح نتكلم we are talking about the front end versus back end, front end web development, then HTML, which is HYPERTEXT markup languages, then the CSS, and finally we're talking about the main framework are using in the front end website development. First, what is the web development? The work involved in the development a website for the internet, which is World Wide Web, or intranet, a private network. Where development can range from developing a simple single static page of the plain text to the complex web-based internet application, web apps, electronic business, and social network, just like a Facebook, Twitter, and etc. There is some mistake between or confusion between the web designer and web developer. There is many different between the two person. The web designer is completely different from web developer. For in this slide, we can describe what is the main difference between the web designer and web developer. For a web designer, a person who engage in the creating the appearance of the website. So he's focused mainly on the designing of website. So maybe he's not a programmer or he cannot program. On the other hand, a programmer, a web developer is a programmer who engage in developing application for the World Wide Web. Another different, the web design create the look of the website, while the web developer do the programming to develop the website. And the web design should have a skill such as a visual designing, user experience, search engine optimization, SEO, marketing, Photoshop, Sketch, and illustration. As we've seen here, most of this experience focus on designing, not while on the other hand, the web developer should have a skill in the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, MySQL, Ruby, Python, and various tools such as the SVN, Git, etc. This is which is focusing mainly on the how to programming or how to create a website, not designing. So if for the first one, for the web designing, focus on the viewing, while the web developer focus on the whole structure of the website. And finally, should be imaginative. The web designer should be imaginative, creative, and have excellent communication skill, while the web developer should have a logical mind and excellent skill other than technical skill. So this is the main difference between the two person, the web designer and web developer. Now let's talk about the core component of the web application. As we know, the web application can be classified in the two main phases. The phase one is the front end, which is the interfacing phase, which is we can see on the browsing, which is called the client, as they see in this block diagram, using one of the browser just like Firefox, Chrome, and so on, and the interface of the page that appear for us that which is include the all contents with which appear for the user on the front end, which is include the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. This is linking with the API, which is already linked with the database and media cache. This part, we call it a backend, which is include the database and logic, while the user interface, which is also known as front end or DOM or framework. Here, front end and web development. Front end or client side, also known as the client side web development, refer to everything in the web application that display on the front end, which mean in the end user device. Everything can see on the screen of the laptop or computer or even the tablet or phone. This is called the front end, which is user can be seen from the browser. Three layers of the front end. We have the HTML, which is pronounced for hypertext markup languages, and the CSS cascading style sheet, and finally the JavaScript, or as we know as JS. And we can see here the last version of the HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. And we can see the HTML here represent the structure of the website, while the CSS represent the presentation or the style of the website. On the other hand, the JavaScript represent the behavior of the website. If you can have some example of this, we can see for this building. As we see in the first picture, we can see the structure of the building, while on the second one, this one is represent the HTML here. So the structure of the building is represent the HTML, while the covering or the accessories of the building to make have a good view, it is responsible of the CSS. And to add some feature as animated or something like that, we using the JavaScript, as we see here with the lift and some other accessories, just lighting or glasses in this picture. So it is very good example to explain what is the difference from the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In this lesson or this seminar, we are focusing on the HTML and CSS. So before I talking about the HTML, we're talking about document objective model. Document objective model make every addressable item in the web application an object that can be manipulated for color, transparency, position, sound, and behavior. This is known as the DOM, and every HTML tag is represent a DOM object. This is a tree represent for the HTML root element, as we've seen here, some structure for the HTML code. And here, if you see, DOM is represent the three feature we are talking before, the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, let's talking about the HTML. It's the standard markup languages for document designing to be displayed in the web browser. HTML document consists of the tree of element and text. This element and text, or each one of them, is denoted in the source by start tag, such as body, or for example, and end tag, such as /body. Sorry, /body. So this is represent the begin of your section, and this is represent the end of your section in the HTML. By the way, this is maybe it is a type of the computer languages, but the different it is known as the script languages, not the traditional computer languages, just like C++ or Java. This is a special type called a script languages. This is some commands for HTML, just like see here, HTML, and the begin and the end of each one. And between them include the text we need to put it here. For example, HTML is represent of your first program, just like a main in the C++ and the end /HTML. Head for making headlines, the body, which is include the text, and H1, which is heading 1, and paragraph, anchor, and image. Sorry, it is there's a I missing here, which is image, which is to include image here. There is something changed through the last year in the HTML, and some feature is added, especially after 2014. When we're talking about traditional or conventional HTML, we're talking about the HTML version 4, which is language work statistically, which means this type was work statistically. What we mean with the statistically, which means that you cannot create a dynamic or interactive web page feature using HTML only. If it's only modified as the static element of the web page, such as the content of the header, footer, image, and position, etc. HTML5, on the other hand, was released in the 2014, as I say before. It has a platform of the new additional feature to its predecessor, such as offline media storage support, more specific content element like a footer, header, navigation, etc. Simpler inline duct type, audio and video embedded support. Why? Because the old version of the HTML cannot support for the audio and video, just for the image. So when we're talking about the HTML now, or current HTML, we're talking about the HTML5, which is represent a big difference between them and the oldest version of the HTML. If you see here, some of the feature for the HTML5, for example, HTML5 support SVG, which is scalable vector graphics, canvas, and other virtual vector graphics, whereas in the HTML, using vector graphics was only possible by using it in conjunction with the different technology, just like Flash, VML, vector markup languages, or Silverlight. Another feature for the HTML5, web SQL database are used in the HTML for the storing data temporarily. Meanwhile, in the previous version, the HTML-only browser cache could be utilized for this purpose. Also, with the HTML5, JavaScript can run within a web browser, while the older HTML only allowed JavaScript to run in the browser interface thread. Also, you can use inline math, ML, and SVG in text with the HTML5, whereas HTML restricts it. Some elements are removed in the HTML5, like S-index, non-frame, acronyms, applet, base font, therefore, big reason, strike, and so on. HTML5 also supports a new kind of form control, including dates, time, email, number, range, tail, URL, search, etc. There are also multiple a new feature and new element in HTML5. Some of the most important ones are summary, time, aside, audio command, data list, and so on. So if we need to work on web designing or web developing, sorry, it should be working now on the HTML5, which is become more flexible compared with the old version, just like HTML4 and old. This is some example of the structure of the two kind of the HTML. Here we can see the HTML4, and here we can see the HTML5, and we can see the difference between the structure of both of them. Now we're talking about the CSS or cascading style sheet. As we known before, since the HTML works statistically, that means it needs to some support. And as we see, if you just build a website with using the HTML, that means you building a structure of the website. So just like a building without any soul or without any spirit, just a structure. So we using the CSS to give the features or accessories for our website. So everything we see as the that make a website have a good look is behind the CSS. Okay, so to build a beautiful interactive website, you need to combine HTML with at least two front-end languages, cascading style sheet and JavaScript. And as I say before, the JavaScript is focusing on animation, while CSS focusing on the general looking. CSS is a style sheet languages used for the describing the look and formatting of document written in the markup languages. For example, this is two examples for a website with CSS and without CSS. For example, here, social media that known as the Facebook, as we see here, while and here after using the CSS. The same thing for this website, which is called Bundler, and we can see the difference between the two examples before and after the CSS. So as we can see, the CSS give the style and the beautiful look for our website. So CSS can be classified to the different type. One of them is the external style sheet. With the external style sheet, you can change the look of the entire website by changing just one file. So it is extended file link with the main file of the HTML file and have the extension as CSS extension. Okay, this is the example. So if you see here, head link rel, which is linking with the file called mystyle.css, and the linking make through the head and backslash head. For the internal style sheet, there's the other type of the CSS may be used if one single page has a unique style. So we're using this type. Internal style are defined within the style element inside the head section of the HTML page, as we've seen here. First, we starting with the head, then we starting with the style, which means we starting the code of the CSS, and we can see here some of instruction for the CSS, just like changing the color and margin for position, And after we finish with the CSS, we ended with the style, and then we ended the head. Also, there is inline style. An inline style may be used to apply a unique style for the single element. To use inline style, add the style attribute to the relevant element. The style attribute can be contain any CSS property. This is also just like before, we're using the header style and then put the command we needed, then we ended the header. The CSS also have evolution through the last years. So the last version now is CSS 3. CSS work with the HTML and provide basic style and look to the website, while CSS 3 is the latest version of the CSS, provide JavaScript and mobile development feature with the additional features such as transition, gradients, and more. This is some of the features different between the CSS 2 and CSS 3. For example, CSS split up different sections of the code into module. Both CSS and HTML were put into a single file. There was no concept of the module before. There are new ways you can write the CSS rule with the bunch of the CSS selector, while here there is no new way of writing CSS rules. There is no backward compatibility with the CS2, while here there is a backward compatibility maintained with the CSS3. With the CSS2, only web safe front can be used, while with the CSS3, special front can be used, such as those in the Google fonts and typecast. Also, the concept of the simple selector were present, and here the selector were called as the sequence of the simple selector. And there is another many features. There is difference between CSS or CSS2 and CSS3. Finally, we are talking about the main framework that using in the front end web developer. First, we're talking about what is the framework. Software framework designed to reduce the overhead in the web development. So before or instead, we are focusing on using the original languages, just like with the HTML or CSS. We have these framework that provide many facilities to the programmer or to any designer even to build a website without go deeply in the main languages. So there's many type of the framework architecture. There is a model view controller, MVC, push versus pull based. Most MVC framework use a push based architecture, action based, just like Django, Ruby on Rails, Symfony, Stripes. Pull based, component based, Lift, Angular, React.js, and three-tier organization, just like client, usually the browser running HTML, JavaScript, CSS, or application running the business logic or database, just like data storage. There is two types also of the framework. There is a server side, just like Django, Ruby on Rails. There's a client side, just like Angular, React, and Vue.js, as we've seen here in some of the most common front-end framework in 2020. Here some explanation how we can the framework covering the three types of the web developer: HTML, JavaScript, and CSS within the one framework. we have here some example about the front end and back end framework, just like React.js, Angular, and Vue.js, and Angular.js for this is and Backbone for the front end. And we for the back end, we're not talking in this lesson, but maybe in the next lesson. We have Django, Flask, which is based on the Python, Laravel, which is based on the PHP, and Ruby on Rails, which is based on the Ruby, and we have Node.js, which is based on the JavaScript. Thank you for your listening. This is the end of my lesson. If you have any question, I'm ready to answer.
Can I ask you, please?
Okay, Doctor. Sure,
Okay,
Doctor.
Dr. Ahmed.
نعم دكتور ده اسمعك.
Thank you very much for this interesting subject for me, at least. I am just wondering, we have HTML and we try to develop it to incorporate other features, so integrated it with other programs such as CSS.
Yes, Doctor.
Such development, to a certain extent, become difficult because the frame may be not strong enough. Is there any attempt to redevelop a new language to take the place of HTML?
Doctor, as I say, if you see the frameworks, why they are develop the frameworks, to make something very easy for any website development to work on it. For example, some of the one of the most commonly framework now it's using this Angular. So in Angular, for example, there is a Vue.js and React.js. All of them, I cannot concern with how I program the HTML. You can using some a package or a block. It is very standard and build your website very easily. So just like when you are just call some of this block or classes or object, so the program is come directly and written in your editor in the HTML and CSS. So if you see in this figure, the framework can cover the three all of them, so that the programmer cannot confuse with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All these can become very easy with using the frameworks.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome, Doctor. Please, Dr. Athil.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for this lecture. Actually, you said about the HTML. You said the older versions of HTML cannot be, let's say, build a dynamic looking website, right?
Yes, you're right.
With the newer version, with HTML5, you said we can build with this version a dynamic looking. My question is, do we still can build a website with a dynamic behavior and the stylish looking without using CSS?
Let me rephrase your question. You mean we can design a website with based on the HTML5 without using another supporting languages, right?
Exactly.
This is a good question. I can answer this maybe for some extended, yes, but HTML5 maybe have some of the feature that included in the CSS or on JavaScript, but at the but in the same time, it's not all the features. So based on the HTML5 only, I think it is not good for us. This is also why we are prefer using the frameworks, because since you are not found something you need to develop in one of them, you can use the framework because it's combined for three of them. That's the point. But building or developing a website based on the HTML5 and we have a look feature just like with the supporting with the CSS, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
It's still needed to do your CSS. As I say, maybe you can build a good building, but you still need very good looking for it. So speaking about the feature, the CSS, this is the specialty of them. Even though the HTML make it easy for you to provide some of them, because he take some of the CSS features and put it on it, but at the same time, it's not the all features. You still need some of the CSS features.
Okay, thank you. What I understood from this, so CSS like decoration for the building.
It's exactly. I can say the JavaScript is most decoration, but the general looking for the home is the CSS. Because if you can after you build your structure, you need to give your house, for example, a good looking. After you finish your looking, you are focusing on the decoration. So I can say that JavaScript is closely to decoration more than CSS. The CSS focusing on the just like we can say the covering and the style, the general style. While we need to add more features or more decoration or more animated for your website, just like I say, we give him some of the spirit, okay, animated thing you can using the JavaScript.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. My second question actually about the frameworks. Is it similar to, let's say, MATLAB? MATLAB, for example, you can find the inverse of a matrix just by doing a very simple command, which is IMV, and give the variable for the matrix. Is it similar to the MATLAB without going for the details for example, for the inverse of the matrix and just like simple commands or
exactly. In the framework, it's the same thing. So it is just like a short is a block of the commands and instruction in one command, or sometimes in one object,
without going with details.
Without going in the details. But and sometimes you need to make some modification on this block, so you can go internally. For example, you have maybe some of the class or some of the object with a new animation, but you need to modify this animation. So you go to the code and changing on it. Also, the framework provides this as well.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed.
You're welcome. Okay. Any question?